Hi, guys. I want to preface this before you see this interview with me and Bracha. I apologize for the echo. I tried my hardest to get rid of it. Nothing worked. I mean, first part it worked, but the last half, the echo was just echoing. And I'm sorry. I really am sorry. So I try my best. I'm putting it out there. I told you I was going to give y'all a weekly interview, weekly episode. So here's myself and Bracha. I'm sorry. I tried. I really did. Hi, Bracha.
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
So let's get started. So, Bracha, how's life going so far?
Oh, wonderful. Very, very grateful.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on in life?
How about you? Are you grateful?
Of course. You have to be grateful every day.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the secret that changed my life.
Ooh.
Because I did not know that. I didn't know it growing up. I did not know that was the secret to happiness, gratitude.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you say that life right now is good. You're grateful. What about life right now that makes you grateful?
Oh my goodness. I can't think of anything I'm not grateful for. I mean, everything, all the challenges that I've been through, they all help me get to this point of gratitude now in my life. Like everything that's changed. I think about like one of the books that I wrote is about the prevention of abuse. And had I not become familiar with that in my life, I would not have been able to write this book, actually 2 books about that, which have helped to save many children's lives. So I know that there's a purpose to everything. And if we use those challenges, if we see them for what they are, then we could do amazing things with all the challenges that are happening. Oh, I heard this expression. Things don't happen to you. They happen for you. I mean, that changes my whole perspective. If all these things happen for you to become a better person, wow. Yeah, that's what I'm grateful for.
That's amazing. That's a reoccurring theme in my life right now. Things are not happening to you, they're happening for you.
Yes.
And I could go on and on about that, about me,
Yes.
or for me in particular, but we're going to focus on Bracha today, okay? That's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on Bracha. All right, Bracha, you talked about, you just mentioned that being grateful helped you to learn to be happy in your life, right?
Yes.
So, how did Bracha get here? You talked about you wrote a book about prevention of abuse. Is that where you started?
Right. So I already now, like there's been 42 books, children's books that have been published. I try to write the books that I wished I had as a child because my goal is to help children get happiness skills in life as early as possible so they don't have to play catch up like the rest of us. Like we had to play catch up, learning these things later on in life, that if you learn early on, it's a whole different life. You can accomplish even more great things in this world. So that's what I do. And some of my books, like I talked about prevention of abuse, and there's other books about how to keep our bodies healthy, because keeping our bodies healthy also is part of letting our souls shine fully. I saw that you talk about leaving a soul-led and purposeful life, and I didn't know I had a soul growing up. I didn't know I was a soul, Okay. So that's when I finally discovered that as a young adult. Mm-hmm. That's what changed my life, because I was searching, trying to fill the emptiness inside, but I didn't know how to fill it because I didn't know that it was a spiritual hole. Like addictions are so widespread because we try to fill the hole with external things, and it never fills it. It makes the hole even deeper. So that's what I was doing. I had food addictions, but it goes for alcohol. It goes for drugs. It goes for gambling, buying, any type of addiction. You're just trying to fill the emptiness because you feel a scarcity of pleasure in your life. Like that's why a person keeps stuffing their face, because it brings immediate pleasure. If you want the pleasure to keep lasting, just keep stuffing your face. That'll work, But the thing is, the only thing that brings lasting pleasure is gratitude.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. So how did you tap into being grateful every day?
I tell you, I was searching, and as like the food addictions got worse, and of course nobody knew I was suffering, because when you have an addiction, you do it secretly, and people do not see you in your active addiction. So bizarre behaviors, I'm doing all kinds. I wrote about it in my book, Nourish the Soul. Nourish the Soul, filling the emptiness within. I didn't really write that book. It's excerpts from my diaries and journals and letters so that a person actually goes through it with me, and you experience me gradually developing the addictions and then healing. How did I heal? I learned about the pleasure ladder, which that is what I'm devoting myself to sharing now with other people. There's 5 levels, which correspond to our 5 fingers. In other words, we have the power to bring pleasure into our lives at any moment. It's totally empowering. It's not in anybody else's control but our own. Once we understand this, so the 5 levels of pleasure, they correspond to the 5 levels of the soul. That's what it's about. The lowest level of the soul is the part that's attached to our body. And when we experience like the natural physical pleasures, like, what do you call this?
Orange tangerine.
Yeah, tangerine. That's it. Tangerine. So when you experience like a natural physical pleasure, natural foods, being in nature, exercise, dancing, swimming, music, when you experience them with gratitude, then you are nourishing both your body and your soul. So that's the secret. As you go up the pleasure ladder, that's the lowest level. The next level up is love. And love, it seems to be dependent on somebody else. How could that be empowering? Because in the ancient mystical definition, it's focusing on the virtues of another. Like even in prison, if a person focuses on the virtues of like a grandmother that once did a kindness for them, they're uplifted with this warm emotional feeling, inspired to be a better person. So we can bring love into our lives at any moment. The person doesn't have to be there, just by thinking about the goodness of another person.
Okay, what are the other 3? Now I'm intrigued.
Oh, good. And each one brings more lasting pleasure, and each one brings more connection. Because like when you're in addiction, you're lonely, you're estranged, you're cut off, you're disconnected. So this is how we bring connection. This is why these things work, but nobody ever explained that to me before, that it's nourishing us spiritually. So when we focus with gratitude on another person's virtues, that's how we bring love in. The next highest level is meaning. When we do something good and meaningful, we feel an even greater pleasure. And when we do it with the gratitude that we can give to another, that fills us with a deeper pleasure. So I was on another show, and when I got up to this point, the host said that he was feeling lonely and miserable, and he had 2 slices of pizza by himself, and he was about to plow through the whole box of pizza. There was a knock on his door. His neighbor needs his help for 2 minutes. When he comes back, he doesn't want the pizza anymore. Like, what changed? He just helped somebody. He gave to somebody. It filled him up instantaneously. He didn't need the pizza. He put the rest in the fridge for another day. It's that feeling of connection. When we bring it into our lives, instantaneously it fills that hole. So this is interesting. Higher than doing something meaningful is creativity. When we're in a creative zone, like we don't feel like eating or sleeping and time doesn't even matter. It's beyond time. Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Right. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. It's such a high when we are feeling creative and giving giving a unique part of ourselves, bringing it out into the world with gratitude. It takes away the ego totally, because we're just like channeling that energy into the world. It's the most awesome feeling, because the most awesome feeling is transcendence. That is when we feel connected to everything and everybody. So each level up, more and more connection. Transcendence is when we recognize we're connected to everybody. Everybody's connected to us, and we're all connected to the same source energy.
Right.
It's flowing through all of us. It's also like when we transcend our own limitations and become more of who we really are, more soul-like. When we make that first crack in a bad habit and we transcend our usual habits, that there's like no greater joy. It's like such a high. And like we've all experienced this, like in the country under a starry, starry sky, when we know we're a part of like the greater universe, and it's that feeling of transcendence. It stays with us forever. So the price we need to pay to climb the pleasure ladder is just one thing, and that's gratitude. That is how we climb every single rung. And it's really our whole purpose for being here. We're really here to enjoy this amazing garden with gratitude. But we've made things more complicated, but that's really our purpose for being here.
We have made things more complicated. We're difficult, not in I don't want to say in a negative way, but we do tend to make things more difficult than we need to.
That's good, because you see, that's also a part of us. We were all given this inner critic, this voice inside our heads trying to make us miserable every moment of the day. So this is one of the newest books I wrote, is called Don't Read This Book. It's written by that voice inside our heads. So the voice doesn't want you to read the book, or you'll learn its tricks. And one of the main tricks is this. It gets you to focus on what you're lacking. So then when you become aware of it, it loses its power. Oh my gosh, that's you trying to get me miserable again. So then you get the power back, and you can focus on what you have already. That is really the trick. And I'm teaching this to really young children, and they get it. When they learn to recognize that voice, that's the secret to how they can develop happiness skills for the rest of their lives.
So how do you teach that to children? Like, what age did you start writing these books for?
Right. Well, first of all, I have some books. Where is it? One of them. I have some books that are even for children like 1 month old, like where they look at pictures of other babies, like it's like this starts from zero. They pop out and they look at pictures and they look through joyful eyes. That's what I'm teaching from the very beginning of life. So these board books are like up to age 3. And then from 3 on are all my picture books. These are not board books like Let's Stay Healthy, teaching children how to be healthy in a positive way. Like those books are from I would say 3 up. And the secret to children's books is this. People don't realize this. It's the only kind of book that every age reads, because the little children read it, adults reading it to them, and even teenagers. They find the books laying around. They read them when no one's looking, because they get stuff from it too, So if you want to send a message out into the world, it's like the best way to do it.
So basically, you said in order for the message to get out into the world, you have to put it in a form of a child's book.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's it's such a great way to reach people because
Gotcha.
you can reach children early on, you know, and you give them these wonderful positive messages, and then they have them throughout their entire lives because you're like inscribing it on their souls early on in life, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I do
Yeah.
read children's books every now and then. I'll pick it up in the library. If I see something like that's intriguing, I'll be like, oh, it's not that long. Let me just go through
Exactly.
it and read it. And I think for us, I'm not gonna lie, especially with adults, we always are talking about healing the inner child, right?
Yeah.
And tending to the inner child and
Yeah.
getting back to our inner child. And I
Yeah.
think we are more open and receptive to the message than
Yes.
we are as adults because we've had so much happen in our lives that we're like, oh, that doesn't happen anymore. That's, that's fiction, or that's a fantasy, or this is that, or that's made up. But when we're reading these books, that child comes out and be like, oh my gosh, I remember reading something like this, or I feel what this book is saying, or it resonates with me, especially when I was at that age, or whatever the age
Yes.
of the book is. So that's genius.
That's it. That's what it's about. I don't know why, but I still identify like as like a 6-year-old boy for some reason. Like that's a lot of my characters are 6-year-old boys in the book.
Okay.
And they're discovering things and they're sharing it to empower other children. You know, so I still have that sense of wonder and curiosity about life. I think that comes across in the words of my books. I don't like to read big books. Children's books are my favorite books to read. Like you say, I go back to that place of wonder and imagination, and it's just the best place. I love it.
Yeah, because I had a guest who is a soul channel, and she said curiosity does not live in a place of judgment, something like that. I'm paraphrasing it, probably
Yes.
messing it up.
No, it's
But then,
good.
but then with me, that automatically put me into like, oh, like a children. Children don't
Right.
usually judge.
Right.
And I posted a short on YouTube saying that, I'm sorry. I posted a short on YouTube about that clip, and someone's like, I don't know about you, but children do judge. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't think children judge in the sense of them saying out loud, hey, I judge you. But I think it's more so of them telling the truth.
Right.
Because children really can't differentiate between at some points in their life when they're younger, they can't really differentiate between like fact and opinion. They're just going to tell you the truth because that's what they believe in, or that's what they're going to say. It's not until that they're older that they understand the concept of judgment and truth. Make sense?
Yes. No, I know what you're saying. Yes. I mean, for sure they could be judgmental. They'll make fun of people and stuff like that. Yeah. But what you're saying is they won't have as many filters up, you know, like
No.
we've learned to, yes, not say certain things or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids
Yeah.
that have no filter. But I understand what you mean by making fun of somebody, but I think it's in the most innocent way. When I'm watching like these videos of children with their grandparents or their parents, they might mimic, their grandfather or grandmother walking with a cane, but it's not like a sense of a judgment. They're just mimicking what they're seeing. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
get what you mean by they do judge, but I feel like they judge in a sense of just mimicking what the other person is doing at the time.
Yeah. It could be. I, I would say that what changed for me is like when life felt meaningless, when I didn't get life's purpose, the world had become very gray. And when I understood that the purpose of life is to experience the greatest pleasure possible, and that pleasure comes through gratitude. Once I understood that, it's as if the colors came back into the world, you know, and the world became beautiful again. And it kind of reminds me of the Wizard of Oz movie. You know, it's black and white and then it gets colorful again. That's how my life felt to me. Like my teenage years and beginning of young adult. until I really understood this, it felt like dark and cold and an unfriendly world that I couldn't trust. Until I understood that really the world was designed for us to experience it in joyful gratitude. And that changed my whole perspective.
And that's how you got started writing children's books?
Yes, to explain to people, like, here's an example. This book is called The Invisible Book. I'm explaining to people that there's so many things we believe in that are invisible. For instance, if I let go of this book, it falls down. There's invisible gravity pulling it down. If I have a magnet, I pick up a paper clip. There's invisible force, electromagnetism. There's the wind. You see the effects of the wind, but you don't see the wind. There's our thoughts. There's our feelings. You don't see them, but you see their effects. The same thing with our invisible souls. You don't see your soul, but that's who we are. That's the essence of who we are. And we're just clothed in these bodies for this limited amount of time that we have on earth. So I'm teaching this to children as early in life as possible, so they'll get that, and then they'll know that they could nourish their hungry souls. The part of them that's always hungry, that's their soul. Their body isn't always hungry. So when a person overeats, it's because their soul is still hungry, not their body.
An interesting perspective. I would have never put that together. I would have thought they just needed some water. They were dehydrated.
Okay, that's true too. That's definitely true too. That's a practical solution. Usually people are dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water. Very good. Excellent. But it's that craving when it's never enough, when a person feels they never have enough in life, it's because they're not living with gratitude. That's really practicing gratitude is what changes a person. You can start with this, like we could just take this for granted, this, tangerine. That's it. Tangerine. So like the fruit, they're all green. They're all green, and then they turn these bright and beautiful colors when they're ripe and ready. They go, we're ready. This is how they tell us they're ready, because they're beautiful to look at. They smell beautiful. And then they come individually packaged, and the sweet juiciness stays in for months. You take off the wrapper, and then after you finish experiencing it with gratitude, you're left with these seeds. These seeds can become infinite amount of trees and more tangerines and more oranges. They're meant to be planted again in the earth. It's amazing. So there's so much wisdom and loving kindness created for you, whoever is eating this. It was made for you. All that loving kindness and wisdom was packed in here for your experience. It's amazing. It changes everything. And then we can experience it with so much gratitude. Could you imagine all the things we won't be taking for granted, and what a more joyful life we could live?
Yeah, that analogy really hit. Because when you talked about the seed, in my mind, and you're like planting a seed, in my mind it went to the biblical sense of having faith of a mother. I need to let me slow down.
Take a drink.
Having the faith of a mustard seed and planting it. Wow.
That's it. Yes. So we are being loved all the time. Even if a person has gone through abuse or neglect in their childhood, to build it back in again through practicing gratitude. It's not easy, but it's a joy. Every moment that you do it is a moment you're not being miserable. Every moment of gratitude is a moment you're not spending being miserable.
Yeah, you're talking to me. I was one of those children. So I get it. My inner child is like, oh, we're paying attention. I wish I had this when I was younger, as you stated before. So how has this helped heal your inner child?
I'll tell you, this is it. This is
What's that?
This is what our inner child looks like.
Okay.
It's like shining all the time. But we went through all these different traumas in our life and we don't feel it. It puts layers on top of that shining soul that's still shining as brightly as ever, just as when we were innocent little children. So sometimes we need support. We need people to help us take off the layers that we've put on for protection. But and we need to nourish ourselves from within with experiencing gratitude, practicing it more and more, even when it feels weird in the beginning. So then we'll be shining again. That's really it. When you travel on a road, like in a car that's never been traveled on, it's rocky and tons of gravel. But once you keep doing it, you make those grooves. That's what we're making, gratitude grooves, neural pathways. And it gets easier and easier to practice gratitude the more you do it.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've had a lot of people on that talked about expressing gratitude and changing their mindset whenever they came across something that was just so troubling in their life. And you're right. At first, it is difficult to express gratitude because you're trying to figure out exactly what are you thankful for? Why are you saying I'm thankful for this when it's like, okay, I'm supposed to have this or I'm supposed to have that?
Everything is a gift. If we look at it that way, if it's low expectations that helps us to be grateful people. We really don't need to be expecting anything. Whatever we get, then we are grateful for the gifts. And it doesn't mean that we're going to be accepting of abuse in our lives. No, because the more that we experience gratitude, the less we will be accepting of abusive situations. We will be used to experiencing this loving compassion. So pour in the joy. That is really the secret to overcoming addictions, overcoming loneliness. We feel lonely. We can bring love into our lives through all those ways, focusing on the virtues of another, going out and helping someone else. This pleasure ladder explains why all these things work. People say, exercise, eat healthy, volunteer. But now you can understand why these things work, because they're actually nourishing our genuinely hungry soul.
Yeah. And what are those five pleasure letters?
Yeah. On my website, you can download a really nice chart of the pleasure ladder.
Okay.
So people can put it on their fridge or their cabinet if they ever feel like overeating, whatever. It'll remind them that there's an abundance of ways to bring pleasure into your life. It's not a scarcity. We come to think that we're living with a scarcity of pleasure and we're lacking so much. Commercials get us to focus on what we're lacking. This is how we override that voice in all our heads. In fact, every time we push that voice off, we grow our gratitude muscles. That voice is put inside of us like a personal trainer for us to push it off and grow stronger, grow our gratitude muscles stronger. That's what I explain in Don't Read This Book, how children could do that, grow their gratitude muscles by pushing away the voice. So it's the natural physical pleasures, love, meaning, creativity, and transcendence. And there's a beautiful chart that you can download about the pleasure ladder. So yeah, it's very valuable, free. Oh, you can download that chart for free from my website. Yeah.
What's your website?
Oh, so it's Goetz Bookshop. Goetz is spelled that funny way, Goetz. Bookshop. Yeah.
Oh, that's catchy. I wanted to ask, how did you come up with the titles?
Oh, well, I don't know. Most of my ideas, they come to me just before dawn. I keep a pad by my bed with a pen, and in the dark, I'm writing because I got to get the words down as they come. It's just channeling. Again, it's channeling source energy. So that's when things come to me. But this took me 30 years to write. Don't Read This Book. Yes, I had the title and I had most of the book written like 30 years ago. but I did not have the ending. It's a surprise ending, which I did not have until like last year. When I finally got it, I go, now the book is ready to be published. Now I get how the book goes. So you never know.
Oh, Bracha, this was great. I loved it. You're very animated and very lively. Yeah,
Thank you.
You're very, very animated and lively, jovial. All of that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
This is great. I loved it. And you said 42 books, huh?
42 children's books, and then my one book for adults, which I didn't really write. I just compiled it, basically. Yeah.
So I have another question. Have you had any parents reach out to you about these children's books?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I do presentations in schools and all kinds of places. So yeah. And parents contact me to thank me for really saving children's lives in all different ways. Children that have been bullied.
Yeah.
Children that managed to get away from molesters because they read my books. I mean, all different kinds of reasons that I love helping children. Thank God.
Yeah. That's good. That's great. Well, we're going to end it. Rocky, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, the best place is my website. It's run by my children, and they love when you visit. So that's it. www.gets.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, whether you are watching or listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, share on this video if it resonated with you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Unloaded and Uncovered Podcast, and find us on Facebook, Unloaded and Uncovered. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week. Bye, Bracha. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.